What's going on, everybody? How's everyone doing? This is Steve, Gate City Sports Channel. Hey, guys, I appreciate y'all coming in, all the Cerebral Fan Nation out here. Guys, the title kind of says it all, right? We're going to talk about 53-man roster projections. Clearly, this is the second, or the part two of it, if you will, of the roster projection. So we're going to get into all that tonight. I wanted to just come on for like an hour or so, guys, and I wanted to talk to you guys because there's a lot of stuff that's happened. And I think that kind of reshapes the original 53-man prediction I made last weekend on Saturday. So I want to come in and talk. But to begin with, guys, first off, thank you guys so much for commenting on videos. So many of y'all have been commenting. I've been having trouble keeping up with everyone's comments on videos. And that's a really good problem to have. So I'm grateful to you guys. A couple of big comments have popped up recently over the last couple of days that I feel like they warrant attention. Like, this would be an opportune time for me to really talk about some of the things that go on, because I'll be honest with you guys, there's a lot of things that get, put out there, whether it's through Twitter, actual reports, whatever. There's kind of a clouded understanding of the way 53-man rosters, get put together. And I want to dispel some of the myths I'm seeing and just kind of give you guys an idea of who are the key players. Like, when we talk about the 53-man, roster, the one thing I can tell you right now is this is not a single person operation that puts together your 53-man roster. So just to begin the conversation, guys, every team handles it differently. So on some teams, guys, just right from the jump, there are teams where a coach could be an executive, right? Meaning he's got a front office title. Think Ron Rivera with Washington last year had that kind of, that kind of ability, that kind of trust given to him, right? Bill Belichick with the Patriots has that kind of trust, that kind of, ability given to him, right? So those guys could be the final decision makers over a 53-man roster, but that's far from the norm. In other organizations, it'll be your DOPP, Director of Player Personnel. Reason is normally your DOPPs, those guys normally work directly with, like, not only scouting, but also they work with, personnel. They also work with, like, kind of that next layer of operations, right? The operations department. So they're normally just underneath basically your general manager or your VP of football operations, so forth and so forth, right? So those guys handle a lot of contracts. Not every DOPP does. Not every director of player personnel has that kind of, clout to them. But some do. And some of those guys will get final say, will be kind of that tiebreaker, will be consulted with to decide roster spots. Other situations are a little more similar to what we see with the Philadelphia Eagles, guys, which is your general manager, your GM, or your VP of football operations. One of those type of titles, guys, generally speaking, then would have the final say over your rosters. But the one thing I can tell you guys, don't mistake it. Even though one person might have the final say, it's a collaborative environment. It's not like a single coach is coming up with the roster, right? It's not like a single GM is. It's not like a single scout is, right? It's not like a single DOPP is. It's all collaborative, guys. They collaboratively come up with 53-man rosters. So I know it's, I'll admit, guys, it's fun to blame Howie for stuff. And Howie does deserve blame for some things because ultimately, when you head a department and you're the main guy, even if you're not directly the person that's responsible, guess who's responsible? You're responsible. But in reality, guys, it's very convoluted, to say the least. So what I want to do, guys, is early on in this video, I just want to lay out who are the key players, guys? Like, who are the names you should know in our front office who handle things like scouting, who handle things like football operations, setting to 53, advisor roles, the things you guys should know, okay? So the first one, you guys already know this, general manager. The head of football operations is Howie Roseman. We all know that. You guys don't need me to tell you that. What you probably don't know is that there's two more, maybe you do, maybe you don't. There's two more administrators, right? There's two more operation level managers that you should know. Okay, the first one is the VP of football operations and strategy. You've heard his name. You know he deals with analytics. That's Alec Halaby. Alec Halaby is the VP of football operations and strategy. Okay, The next person was in the news recently for the Eagles during this offseason because she recently got promoted, and she is the first female to really carry this kind of clout, this kind of level, really. And that is the just generic title of VP, Vice President of Football Operations, and that's Catherine Reich, I think is how you say her last name. Guys, I'm not really good at pronouncing last names, so I think it's Reich, Catherine Reich. So from the operations standpoint, guys, you have three key players here. You have Howie Roseman, you have Alec Hallaby, you have Catherine Reich, okay? I don't know the inner workings of how the responsibilities are divvied up between these guys. I can tell you that I do know Alec Hallaby deals a lot with what goes on with analytics. I think Catherine Reich deals more so with the inner workings of scheduling and things like that. Howie Roseman, I think, is the more hands-on when it comes to the other side of things, right? When we get into the scouting, the personnel stuff, because Howie has a background in personnel, although he's never really played. It's he came up in an accountant setting, but then worked inside of the other side of things. Okay. So let's get into the actual personnel side of things, right? So when I say personnel, what am I talking about, guys? That's where all your scouts and all that kind of stuff is found. All right. So I want to talk for a second. Who's the big names you need to know on that side of things, right? Who heads that department? It's kind of two guys you could split it between. I think it's really one, but I'll just say it. The vice president of player personnel is Andy Weidel. Okay, so Andy Weidel would definitely be consultant, would definitely be part of a committee that comes up, coming up with that 53-man roster, guys. The next person you would need to know from the personnel side of things is the director of player personnel, and there's two of them. The first one is Brandon Brown. The second one is Ian Cunningham. Now, if I'm not mistaken, one of those guys used to be the director of pro scouting. The other one used to be the director of college scouting. I think they both were Joe Douglas, Baltimore Raven people that kind of came up with Douglas and them. But those are your directors of player personnel, guys. What a lot of people may not realize is that on some teams, some front office, I should not teams, but in some front offices, your DOPP actually handles the daily stuff that happens with contracts. It's their team, not maybe them necessarily in particular, but their team, right? Their team handles a lot of that kind of stuff sometimes. It's treated a little differently in every organization, but it can be your DOPP that heads up that kind of stuff. All right, the next names you should know, guys, let's talk about the director of scouting. The director of scouting operations, you're going to recognize the last name again because obviously his name is Casey Weidel, and he's relation to Andy Weidel, who's the vice president of player personnel. Then you got Casey Weidel is the director of scouting operations, okay? Past Casey Weidel, guys, your assistant director of scouting is Max Gruder, so he's kind of underneath Casey Weidel. And then you have two guys you need to know. One's from the pro side, one's from the college side, right? The director of college scouting is going to be Alan Walking, and then, the senior director of college scouting is going to be Anthony Patch. All right, I do believe your director of scouting ops, Casey Weidel, and then Max Gruder handle the pro scouts, I think. There is a senior, just so you guys know, just to reveal everything, guys, there is a senior, what they call a senior pro scout, and that's Jeff Scott. That just means that guy's got a lot of experience in terms of moving guys up the ladder. He'd probably be in line to move up the ladder, okay? When you get past that, there's one more phase we got to talk about, guys, when it comes to front office, 53-man rosters, how it all works out. You got to know your advisors, okay? The big advisor, you guys know, Tom Donahue. Tom Donahue is the senior football advisor. This is a guy who's been a GM in the league before. Man, he's been doing this for 30-some years, guys. There's a reason why he's in that. But then you have the other side of things, which is guys that were former players that were invited back to the front office. And a good example of that, guys, would be Connor Barwin. All right, so you got scouts. You got the heads of scouting involved here. You got directors of player personnel, guys. You got your football ops people. You got your general manager. You got advisors, and you got your coaching staff. They all kind of come together. They form the 53-man roster. The reason being is that one person alone can't handle all the external things that come at you, right? Because you got to have player evaluation. That's where the coaching staff comes into play, right? That would be like your head coach, your defense coordinator, your offensive coordinator, and then the coaches beneath them would probably give them notes, okay? But then you got to have things like you got to know, like, okay, the coaches and the scouts say that we're a little weak in defensive tackle, right? I'm hypothetical here, guys. Well, you need your scouting, your pro scouts, to tell you who might come available on a roster. They need to know who would fit the scheme, all that kind of thing, right? So those people are going to be consulted on that, right? You're trying to fill out your practice squad, right? And you need to know your undrafted rookie free agents or the guys that were, late round draft picks that might get cut by teams that you could potentially wait until they clear waivers and sign them away for more money, right? Or you could claim them if you're going to put them on your active roster. Well, that's where your college scouts will come into play, right? When it comes to contracts, it just depends on how your contracts are handled. That could be your DOPP, right? Your director of player personnel, right? That could be your VP of player personnel. That could be your ops team, right? It's all handled because there's a lot of different things. And I think sometimes that gets lost when we just try to sign it to one person, because it's actually, one guy's going to get the final say over things, but there's a lot of moving parts here, guys. I think that sometimes gets left out of the narrative here. All right, y'all, but moving on. Moving on. I want to talk for a second now, guys, before we get into unveiling the 53-man roster. What I want to talk about, guys, I'm going to talk about perceived scheme. Here's the honest-to-God truth that I can tell you. I don't know if any other content curators are telling you, but here's just the facts of things. Everything is perceived. They're not releasing anything. They're not really telling us, right? I can make certain assumptions because you guys know that I put in time and work and looking at things like personnel group and frequencies. I know what they did in Indianapolis. I've watched the film. I've looked at the personnel group and frequencies. I've listened to Nick Sirianni talk on the Colts Network. I know those things. I can make inferences, but I don't know to be a fact on certain things. So when I talk offensively, one of the first assumptions I'm going to make, guys, is that this will be a heavy running back centered offense. Does that mean we're going to run the ball heavily? Not necessarily. It just means the running back will have a precedent, and I should say an elevated status, if you will, within the offense, guys. Okay? That's what I'm expecting. I've heard reports that not necessarily in game. I have seen it a little bit inside the preseason games, but I'm hearing reports that inside of joint practices last week and then overall during training camp, the Eagles ran a lot of 21 personnel. For some of the younger members of the audience that may not have grown up during the 90s era of football and early 2000s era of football, 20 substandard base personnel frequency group that was used for many years in football. This was back when running backs were the main stars of the game and linebackers were the main stars on defense to an extent. Of course, your corners and stuff, and you have receivers, guys, don't get me wrong. But they had a much higher elevated status than they currently do now. These are the days of the Jeremiah Trotters, right? The Kirkland, the old Steelers linebacker, guys. If you remember Kirkland, he was like a 270-pound linebacker. Think about that today in today's NFL, guys. This is the days of the Emmitt Smiths of the world, right? The Jerome Bettises of the world at running back. It was a different era, guys, a different era of football, but 21 personnel is being, I stressed this a few times in videos, guys. It's being reimagined. Now you can play two back sets because you have more athletic running backs. You have a difference of running backs now who can do more things like contribute in the receiving game. Think of guys like Nyheim Hines, Garner High School graduate like myself, NC State graduate, and also he's a receiving back in the NFL that gets used in a unique way, guys. So, the game has changed. But we're seeing some kind of, reshaping in weird ways of coming back to things that were once prominent, just in different ways, right? So 21 personnel, guys, is normally when you see two backs on the field at the same time, guys, and you got one tight end, two wide receivers, guys, okay? Basically, when you see 21-man personnel, it can be run in the I formation. It can be run offset. It can be run from split. You can have a split formation back there with running backs. Just means you got two running backs, one tight end, two wide receivers on the field, guys. That's what 21-man personnel means. I don't know to what percentage we're going to run it, other than the fact that we're going to see it. Anything else other than saying that's what they're practicing, it will clearly be part of the playbook. I can't tell you guys with any kind of real authority that a percentage here, 10%, 20%, 30%, who knows? My guess is it's probably going to be close to that 10% number, to be quite honest, which would be a drastic markup from what we've seen previously. What's up, Jalen? What's up, Theodore? What's going on, 3-Card Monty? Jonathan, what's good, man? Sean Stepp, what's going on, everybody? I saw 2020 Vision in the chat. Romy 1, Just Whiteside. What's going on, man? Eagles Uncensored. What's good? Blaze Tailed. Appreciate you, bro. Reese Scott, what's going on, my guy? Matt, how you doing, buddy? Marcel, how you doing, buddy? Nina, what's going on, Nina? Guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight, guys. We're getting ready to get into the heart of it. Some more notes offensively, guys, right? I do think we're going to see a return to 3 wide receiver sets. I do think we'll see that, but I also expect us to still be running 12-man personnel. It may not be what people want to hear, man, but you got to go off of what the talent is on the roster. And Nick Sirianni's a big matchup guy, all right? So I'm going to be keeping all this stuff in mind as I try to form the roster, guys, as I make predictions. I don't know ultimately more than anybody else does. I'm just making predictions, right? All right, defensively. Defensively, I think we have a bigger conversation to have here, guys, before we start naming players, okay? Defensively, it's really difficult. Let's start off with the defensive line. My gut instinct is that we'll be a 43 base primarily. We may see some 34. You might see some odd, what they call you got even and odd fronts. We might see some odd fronts, which will be a 34 type, or 3-3-5 if you're in a nickel. But I expect to see more 4-3 with a 4-2-5 being the more common. So in that, you have to understand when you get to the line, you have even and odd, and then you have, what they call under or over front. I expect the Eagles to probably play both fronts, both over and under. Every team does, but I do think that we'll see the Eagles be a little more similar to like what you see with the Seahawks and Pete Carroll, to where they're predominantly a under front. So you're talking about a even front, under. Okay. So what does that mean? What does it mean to be under, right? Under, over, what the heck am I talking about, right? So the easiest way I can describe it to you guys is to pay attention to where your nose is, pay attention to where your 3 technique is, and it normally tells you if you're an over or under front. So in an under front, your 0 tech should be towards the strong side of the offense, okay? Strong side just means where the tight end is or where the defense declares to be the strong if they're even. If they have 2 tight end sets and they're both in line, then you just declare where the strong side is, basically. But in perfect world, guys, you're talking about when you say strong, that means where the tight end is. So your 0 technique in an under front is towards the strong side. So that would leave your 3 technique, guys, to be on the weak side of the offense, okay? So 3 technique is on the weak side, and then your nose, he doesn't have to be in a 0. I'm going to get into the alignments in a second, but then your nose is going to be towards the strong side, guys, okay? Normally, your ends can play techniques, guys. They can be a 5. They could technically be a 4-eye. They could be a 5. They could be a 7. They could really be a 9. 4-eye just means that you're on the inside shoulder, kind of going in towards, kind of like where the guard is, in between the guard and the tackle, guys, all right? When you're in a 5, you're basically heads up over the defensive tackle. When you're in a 7 technique, you're kind of into the inside shoulder of a tight end. If you're in the 9 technique, you guys know what a wide 9 is. It means you're split out to the outside shoulder of a tight end, guys. The other thing you'll need to know about defensive ends, guys, is that you can be in a joker stance. When I say joker, it's just a defensive end. It's basically in a, they're standing up. So they're not in a 3-point stance. They're standing up, guys. And they're acting almost like a rush linebacker would. Okay. It's called a joker. All right. So 4-2-5 under. If I say a 2, that means 2 linebackers. If I say a 43, that's a base package, means you have 3 linebackers on the field. Some other things you'll need to know about an under front, guys, simply put, normally your 5 technique is going to be towards the strong side of the offense, right? The reason your 5 technique is normally going to be towards the strong side of the offense in an under front is because you already have a 0 shade, a 1 or a 2 wide technique from your nose. So you don't want to have a drastic gap difference in assignment here. So you normally have your 5 technique there. I think with the Eagles case, we might see either another 5 technique on the weak side or you'll see a 7. I don't think we're going to see a lot of wide 9 with this system, guys. I think you're going to see a 7 technique, and I do expect that the defensive end that's on the weak side where your 3 technique is, I do expect that that's where you'll see guys in the joker formation standing up. All right, I'm going to get into all the specifics of who will play those roles. Just bear with me, all right? So, linebackers. You have A-gap pressure coming, right? That's the staple of what we see from Zimmer in Minnesota Vikings defense, which is where Gannon's coming out of. A-gap pressure just, guys, means either side of the center, okay? So, obviously, if you have a 1 tech or a 0 shade, you're probably not going to need an A-gap pressure guy coming from essentially the strong side of the offense, be over towards the weak side. Then the other thing you will need to know, guys, about your linebacker play would be the guy that's going to be designated as your Sam, just meaning on the strong side. That guy's not really a linebacker, but he's going to basically be lined up a yard and a half back from the tight end, but he's going to definitely be pretty close to that line. and he's going to be right up over that tight end, and he's going to have a pretty big responsibility in run support. And I would not be shocked to see that guy get some play with A and B gap penetration type stuff. I would look out for stunts, twist, movement, motion. They're not going to be predictable, guys. They're not just going to stand there and rush you straight ahead. I do think this defense is going to be a lot different in that regard. Outside of that, guys, secondary, you're going to see more. You're going to see more safety help than we've seen previously. Doesn't mean we'll never see cover 3. I still think we're going to be primarily a cover 3 defense that will employ some quarters with cover 2. All right. We'll be primarily zone based. You're still going to see man coverage. There'll still be cover 1. There might be times where they go all out, cover 0, all out, no safety help. It is possible, but I expect to see a lot more safety help than we've seen previously. Okay. It's going to be a zone based defense for the most part, guys. All right. Let's get into role playing, how guys fit. Let's talk about how people or players are going to fit, guys. My perceived fit for players. We're going to start off with quarterbacks. This one's not very hard, guys. I'm going to say there's only going to be 2 quarterbacks carried on the active roster. Could they still keep 3 quarterbacks? Absolutely. I don't think it's going to happen, though, guys, just because, like I said, if you keep a quarterback, I think for me as a coaching perspective here, why would I keep a quarterback that's not going to do anything but run my scout team, which I can hold that guy on the practice squad? He's not a placeholder because Aaron, Sipos does that. So he's not a placeholder. So he has no special teams value to me. So why am I going to take away a roster spot from another guy for a guy that has absolutely no, you know what I mean? Just because of COVID, newsflash. If they're anywhere near the building and they were in the meeting rooms together, guess what? You're all 3 of them should technically be in protocol then through the tracing. I mean, to be real, I would think that the NFL would be smart and tell teams to keep a guy on the practice squad and keep him away from the room, just in case an outbreak happens on the team. But I'm going to say the 2 guys. I mean, come on now. Jalen Hurts. And I know you guys are down on this guy because of Thursday's game, but Joe Flacco is going to be your backup quarterback. Those are the 2 guys I'm putting on the roster personally, guys. So I got 2 already, all right? After that, guys, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to jump offensive line. And I think this is where it gets tricky, guys, is when we get to the offensive line. All right? When we get to the offensive line, the first thing I'm going to say right from the jump, guys, is I do think they're going to find a way of keeping 10 guys. But my question is Landon Dickerson and some of these guys going to end up on the PUP or potentially the injury reserve list? Because I don't know that he's going to be ready to start the season. And that's a really, really big thing to declare right from the jump because we don't know. And that's a problem. But there's 5 guys we can name right from the jump we know are going to be on this football team, guys. And that's, we got Jordan Mailata. So that's our left tackle, right? We got Isaac Seyomalu. My bad, guys. Okay, that's going to be your left guard. Your center is going to be Kelsey. Your right guard be Brandon Brooks. Your right tackle is going to be Lane Johnson. All right, that's 5 guys right there. We know that. I think there's an obvious, 2 or 3 guys we know are going to be on the roster. The first one's going to be your left guard, right guard, first guard up off the bench, potentially even first center. We all know it. He had a rough game Thursday. Bad snap, man, playing center, man. It really was. I was a little shocked at how bad he played, man, to be quite honest, guys. And I know it's kind of hard because, when a guy has a bad game, sometimes I know it's just difficult to pull back away from that. But Nate Herbig's going to be on this roster, guys. So I got Nate Herbig as your 6. And then the way I'm looking at it, guys, is who's your first tackle? Who's the first tackle off of the bench, guys? Who is that? To me, your first tackle is going to be Jack Driscoll, guys. There's no point even keeping that one there. Just Jack Driscoll, right? So I think the first 7 guys is quite obvious. The 8th guy would be obvious if we knew he was going to be ready for the start of the season. And that's Landon Dickerson. And I don't know that Landon Dickerson's going to be ready to start the season, guys. He's got to get work back into shape. I don't know where he's at. But I'm just going to say this, guys. I haven't heard anything confirm he's a PUP guy. I just heard rumors about it. So because I don't know that, I have to pretend as if he's going to be here, and they're not going to PUP him. They're not going to put him on the IR, and they're going to put him on the active roster. He's not going to play at first because he's got to get his conditioning right. But I'm going to say Landon Dickerson is going to be here until I hear otherwise, guys. So right away, I have 8 guys in Herbig, Dickerson, Driscoll. All right. I hate to say this, guys. The 9th guy, he's a first-round pick. Sorry, I dropped my pen. He's a first-round pick. It's weird to hold him on the roster. I think the Eagles would love to trade him for the right value, but I don't know that we have a backup tackle ready to come in and play left side. If Jack Driscoll could prove to be a swing tackle, could play left or right, it'd go a long way to moving this guy off the roster. But until he's traded, I don't think they're going to cut him. Unless he's traded, he's going to be on the roster. I do feel like there's a good chance he's going to get traded because somebody's going to want tackle play. But right now, I got to put Andre Dillard on the roster, guys. So I'm already at essentially 9 guys, and one of those guys is not going to play week 1. He's not going to play probably anytime in September, and even pushing October could be suspect. And that's in Landon Dickerson. I really have 3 guys that are ready. I got Dillard, who is also coming back from an injury, but it shouldn't be a long-term thing. I got Herbig, who's, he's played a lot of reps here. I'm fine with Herbig at guard. A little concerned if he has to play center. And I got Driscoll, I think, could be that bounce-around guy. Here's the problem, okay? Now I'm getting down to the roster, and because I've got guys where I don't know their health, you got to be real careful who the 10th guy is you put on the roster. And I don't know, man. Like, I look at it, and it's really difficult to project guys. I mean, I think you can go with Sua Peta. Sua Peta makes sense. But the only problem with the Peta is that he really is only a left guard. I mean, you probably could plug him in to play right guard, but I don't think it gives you the same versatility as my guy. And you all know this. I'm the president of the Coyote Owasika fan club here. I started me up, a little Owasika for the 53 fan club. The problem is sometimes, guys, you have to read the tea leaves. And I know Owasika can play. I've seen him play. This kid can play. He's an undrafted rookie free agent. And you got to ask yourself, if you know that the Eagles know that he can play, and I know he can play, why are they hiding him? They don't want film on this kid. They do not want a Noah Togiai situation happen to where Noah Togiai got claimed when they waived him. Reading the tea leaves there, I got to say that they're probably going to try to get him onto the practice squad, and then they'll protect him in season on the practice squad. They'll make sure he can't get claimed. That's my hunch. Owasika, you know that I'm going to be pulling for you, bro. I would put you on this roster if it was up to me because I like a guy that gives me guard and tackle versatility. He's played left tackle in college. They've been working him on the right side in camp. This young man has a lot of versatility. He can play 4 out of 5 of the alignments on the offensive line. I'm not going to project him right now because, like I said, I'm just reading the tea leaves. It seems like they're trying to hide him to me. So I'm going to say that he's probably not on the roster. So that really leaves one more guy that we can talk about, which is LaRaven Clark. In any other situation with LaRaven Clark, guys, I would probably say LaRaven Clark has no shot at making the roster. But the reason I'm leaving it open for him to potentially make the roster, along with Sua Peta being the other guy that you have to factor in here, guys, is the simple fact is that this coaching staff, to an extent, especially the head coach, especially the wide receiver coach, they know this young man, right? They saw him play in Indianapolis. They know who he is, okay? So now we're down to Sua Peta, LaRaven Clark, Matt Pryor. This is where it gets tough, guys. One of these guys is going to make it, in my opinion. Maybe 2, depending on what happens with Dillard or Landon Dickerson's status. 2 of them may make it, but one of them, in the way that I have this formed, is going to make it. I know I can play Driscoll as a guard, okay, if I had to. I know Herbert can play as a guard. I even know that if I get Landon Dickerson back healthy, he can play as a guard. But right now, outside of Driscoll and Dillard, I don't know what my depth is at tackle. So I got to choose a guy, and Sua Peta could absolutely make this roster, guys. I could be absolutely wrong here. I don't think he is, though. LaRaven Clark and Matt Pryor is what it comes down to me. I hate this, guys. I'm going to give the edge to Matt Pryor right now. He shouldn't be on the roster by merit alone. Matt Pryor's let me down so many times, but at the same time, guys, he's further ahead on the depth chart, and he's been in camp. He's been working, while LaRaven Clark has not. There is still, like I said, there is familiarity with LaRaven Clark. So I really think all 3 of those guys have an equal opportunity here. But I'm going to go with Matt Pryor. I could be wrong here, guys. It's tough to say on some of this stuff, but I got Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbig, Landon Dickerson, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll are my 10. All right. I'm not, like I said, guys, I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of how Matt Pryor's played because Matt Pryor has the talent. Matt Pryor is not failing in this competition due to talent. The one thing I noticed was on one of the reps he did, the footwork was off, right? Like he kept going. His footwork looked okay initially, but then his hand placement was off. And then the footwork got off. And then all of a sudden you see the defensive end cut the corner on him. I don't know what's going on with Matt Pryor. Physically, this guy should be a lot better than what he is, but I just don't see any other way around it right now. Like I said, guys, I'm a big fan for an upset. I would love to have Owasika on this roster over Matt Pryor. I'm pulling for the Owasika card here. I know the Eagles are trying to hide him, and I'm hoping that what happens is that, Stoutland and, Coach Sirianni and the guys get into the ears of the scouts, they get into the ears of Howie, they get into the ears of Andy Guidell and all these guys and say, look, we don't think this guy's going to make it. We think if you expose him to waivers, he's going to get claimed. I don't know, guys. I really don't want to lose him. I can tell you this, guys. If the Eagles cut Owasika and he gets claimed, I'm going to need sympathy, guys. I'm going to need you to come on and just say, my condolences, Steve. Because, yeah, I'm going to be in a bad state of mind if that happens. Because, like I said, guys, I'm basically the president of the Owasika fan club right now. So if that happens, guys, I ain't going to be happy. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not going to be happy if it happens. All right, moving on, guys. We're up to 12 people on the roster. I think at this point we should probably go running back. I think that's the next. Well, we'll go tight end. Let's go tight end because I think tight end is where the next interesting thing happens, okay? And I'll go a little bold on this prediction, all right? We're going to keep 3 tight ends, okay? Here's the 3, all right? We know Zach Ertz is going to be here unless he's traded. I wouldn't roll out a trade, guys, but it looks like he's going to be here. Just going with what it looks like right now. So Zach Ertz, okay? We know Dallas Goedert's probably going to be here, guys. So Dallas Goedert, that's your 2. This is where I think things get a little interesting, and I'll just stick with me, guys. Don't lose preemptive condolences, Steve. Thank you, Just Whiteside. Just stick with me, and I'll explain why I'm doing this and how you make this work, okay? So my 3rd tight end is Tyree Jackson. Here's the thing, guys. Any other player probably doesn't get claimed, especially when they're injured. The problem is Tyree Jackson flashed a little too much. Teams know about him. This young man chose to be converted to tight end. This was not the Eagles doing it. He asked to be converted to a tight end. He felt he could play the position, and boy, was he right. I think you have to initially put Tyree Jackson on the roster, okay? One day later, you designate him as IR, okay? And then you wait a week. Okay? You wait a week, and you don't have to guarantee the contract of Richard Rodgers, and then you bring back Richard Rodgers, okay? So that's what I'm proposing is going to happen, guys, is that they're going to carry 3, but they're going to they're going to put Tyree Jackson on, cut Richard Rodgers. If he gets claimed, there's nothing you can do about that. He's probably not going to get claimed. You tell him, look, we're going to bring you back, man. Don't go anywhere. Don't clean out your lockers. No point in it. Don't leave the city. Coming back. We want to keep this kid. The only way we're going to keep this kid is by doing this. All right. I think that's what's going to happen ultimately. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But I feel confident that's what's going to happen. I do. I just feel like if you expose this kid to the waiver wire, somebody's going to claim this young man because he was that good. And he doesn't even know how to play the position yet, guys. And he's already this good. Like, this is a really good sign for the Eagles come next year when you're not going to have both Ertz and Goddard. That's a guarantee you won't have both of them next year. So Tyree Jackson, Richard Rodgers, but hey, that's what I think is going to happen, guys. I really do. All right, let's go into running backs, guys. Offensively, we're going to talk about running backs. Okay, so we're up to 2 quarterbacks, 10 offensive linemen, 3 tight ends. Just for you guys that may have just tuned in, I'll name who I got here. Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco is my quarterbacks. All right, Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbig, Landon Dixon, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll, offensive line. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Tyree Jackson. Richard Rodgers will be coming back, though, okay, as my tight ends. Put that together, guys. It's 15 out of the 24 to 25 spots you can get on offense, guys, all right? Next one is going to be running backs. This one is very interesting, guys, because I've been going back and forth on what the Eagles do. at running back. Running back and wide receiver gets to become like a really interesting kind of thing to juxtapose beside each other, right? Do you keep 6 wide receivers? Do you keep 5 running backs? We know they're keeping 4. So I might as well just rip the Band-Aid off of the 4. You guys know them. Same, you guys, I guarantee you every one of us has the same 4. Miles Sanders, big surprise. Jordan Howard, maybe a little surprising to people. That one might. Boston Scott, I know, guys, but be honest with you, he's a change of pace guy. Kenneth Gainwell's on this roster, guys. I'm pretty sure of that one. So I think you got 4 right from there. I think the real question becomes when you're looking at tight ends, maybe you keep Tyree Jackson and Richard Rodgers on the roster, and then you just IR Tyree Jackson and you bring another guy back. But I think the real question becomes like, what do you do here? Do you keep Jason Huntley as your running back? Do you keep 6 wide receivers? What do you do? I think that becomes the real question. And I think for the Eagles, what the Eagles have to ask themselves is, Kerryon Johnson technically has been reverted back to the Eagles. They could waive him with settlement now. He can be cut with a settlement. Or you could put him on the roster. You could IR him. That's where I think the question really becomes on some of this stuff. It gets kind of tricky, right? That's a tough one, guys. I'm going to say, for right now, I'm sticking with 4 running backs. We can have this conversation at the end of the video if you all want. I'm going to stick with 4. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, okay? Wide receivers. If I go 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, 10 offensive linemen, 2 quarterbacks, you could still go theoretically, you could go 5 wide receivers here, guys, and save a roster spot for the defense. You could. Guys got to warrant the spot, though. That's the problem. I don't know that people warrant the spot, guys. You know what I'm saying? So here's what I got. Wide receivers. I think we all know Devontae Smith is on this roster. If you don't know that, I don't know what to tell you. All right. Jalen Reagor. Jalen Rager's on this roster, guys. Okay. Quez Watkins. Quez has earned his way on this roster, guys. Okay. I'm going to say the 4th guy that I feel pretty confident is going to be on this roster. And this is where things, I think, start to get really interesting, guys. But I'm going to say Greg Ward is on the roster. And I don't think that's a guarantee, but I'm just looking at it from the perspective of, like, who gives you the most value, who's been the most talented in camp, and what do you do past that, guys? Because if you only keep 5, boy, do you got a battle on your hands. If you keep 6, I think you can make a little bit more determination here. I think you make a little bit more judgment here, okay? Here's what you have to look at, guys, when it comes to some of this stuff. You have to look at, I would advise going into snap counts, looking at your snap counts, and then looking at special teams. You want to see special teams play, and you want to see who they're putting out there on ridiculous amounts of reps for special teams, because that normally is a fairly good indication of who they're going to keep on the roster, guys. Okay. If you're giving a guy a lot of special teams reps, it means, and especially if they're playing like several positions across the spectrum of special teams, normally that means that that guy's going to be on the roster. And the one guy that's concerning me right from the jump is Jack Stoll, who played 8 snaps on special teams, right? Travis Fulgham played 11. Keep that number in mind, guys, okay? I look down here. Akeem Butler played 8. JJ only played 4. That's concerning me because I think that's where you get a little kind of crazy about how people are playing here. But what I'm justifying here is although Travis Fulgham has probably been outplayed, to be quite honest, by JJ this camp so far, he is playing special teams. That's the thing. I'm going to say right now, 5. My 5th guy is Travis Fulgham. Okay? So I got Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham. Okay? Here's where it comes into play, guys. I'm looking for a 6 wide receiver, or I'm looking to add a 5th running back or another additional tight end. I got Jack Stoll playing 8 snaps on special teams, which tells me that guy's at least going to be on the practice squad. I can guarantee you that, guys, unless he gets claimed. Elijah Holyfield played 5 snaps, so he played some special teams. But I wouldn't say that's like a ridiculously high number. Andre Patton played a lot on special teams, guys. Like he played a solid amount of reps on special teams. I'm looking at it. No one else on this roster offensively played a ton of special teams, guys. I see some guys defensively that played a ton of special teams play, but offensively, there's no other guy here that I think played like just a tremendous amount of special teams reps. Okay. So right now, guys, I think what I'm going to do, and this could be controversial. I could be wrong. I'll admit it, guys. I don't know. But look, JJ is a second round pick. The front office is going to get a say over this roster. If they go 6, and I don't think there's a guarantee. I don't think there's a guarantee, guys, that they go 6. I really don't think there's a guarantee there. I think they might go 5 wide receivers and add a running back. You can make a guy like, just think outside the box. If you don't even want to call it a 5th running back, you want to call it a 6th receiver, you can't take a guy like Kenneth Gainwell and say he's a receiver. He's a slot guy. You could do that technically. But I'm going to put JJ on there, guys. All right, as the 6th guy. So I got Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco, Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbig, Landon Dickerson, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Tyree Jackson temporarily. Then he goes to IR. And then they're going to bring back Richard Rodgers, okay? Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, okay? Kenneth Gainwell. Almost called him Deshaun Jackson. That's not right. All right, we got Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, guys. All right. That's what I got so far. Offensively, that would be 25 players. Keep in mind, there are other ways of shaping this roster. You do not have to go 25 offensive players. You can go 24, and you can keep a spot for a guy defensively. The problem is, the reason I haven't done it is I don't know if there's anyone that's deserving of the extra spot, dude. So I didn't do that personally, guys. I'm not mad at you if you do, guys. We're all speculating. We're all taking guesses. Your guess is as good as mine, guys, on a lot of this stuff. I think there's a few guys that feel certainties. I don't think there's that many roster spots up for battle, up for grabs. I think that's very apparent by the preseason, the way it's been treated. The games, at least. So that's the way I see it so far, guys. Let's go defensively. I told you guys, we talked a lot about scheme at the beginning of this video. We talked about the 4-2-5 and the 4-3 under front, how that's going to work out, how guys fit. Now we need to get into specifics of the alignments on the defensive line, right? 9 technique, 7 technique, 5 technique, the 4-eye, the 4, 3, 3-eye 3, your 2-eye, your 2, your 1 technique, your 0 shade, your 0, right? All those things come into play. Guys, once again, if you're tuning in later and you don't know what an underfront is and what I'm talking about, how that plays out, an underfront is really simple to distinguish by paying attention to 2 positions in particular, 2 alignments along the defensive line in particular. Your nose, your 3 technique. In an underfront, your nose tackle will be towards the strong side of the offense, while your 3 technique will be towards the weak side of the offense. In reverse, or in contrast, in an overfront, your nose is going to be towards the weak side of the offense, and then your 3 tech will be on the strong side. So that's really the big difference, or the big giveaway between over and under. We're set to probably be an under front. I'm speculating, guys. This is speculatory. And it doesn't mean that we're always will be in under front. They will still run over fronts at times, guys. Nobody does it 100% one way, guys. I wouldn't even be shocked to see us play a little odd over even fronts, little 34, 3-3-5. I wouldn't be shocked, guys, at all. So, speaking of all this, let's go defensive line, guys. Let's talk defensive line. Let's talk about fits, where guys go if we're talking about an under front, okay? The first thing I want to talk about in an under is the nose. And I want to talk to you guys for a second about something that happened at the nose. Do you guys remember Tom Donahue getting really ticked off when we picked Milton Williams? Milton Williams is turning out to be a really good defensive end. You guys remember I told you guys a long time ago, Milton Williams is an occasional 3 technique. He's not a defensive tackle on a down-to-down basis right now in the NFL. He's a defensive end. That's where they primarily played him. I'm a little disappointed they haven't played him a little bit as a defensive tackle, like a 3 tech and some stuff, but that might just be their hiding stuff. I do feel like he's going to get some reps there in season. But when I looked at the nose and bringing up the Tom Donahue thing, why was he mad? He wanted them to draft my boy from NC State, guys. He wanted them to take Aleem McNeil, who is a very unique nose, right? A very, very, very unique 0 tech in the NFL, especially in college he was, okay? Aleem McNeil has the feet of a running back, but the freakish strength of a Fletcher Cox. He does. And it's all potential. It is not production yet at the NFL level. But Aleem McNeil would have been a great nose. But I feel like we did pretty good. I feel like we have a piece at defensive end going forward, and we have 4 dudes on expiring contracts. So getting a guy that's going to be here for another 4 years or so, smart deal, smart idea, honestly. So I mean, I'm not completely mad about that. Getting to the nose, who is your nose? Who is going to be primarily the nose plays 3 alignments: a 0, 4, a 0 shade, a 1 technique, right, or a 2-eye. Generally speaking, that's where a nose can line up at. So who's the nose? I'm going to take a guess that's Javon Hargrave, okay? Javon Hargrave is probably your starting nose, and I do think that they will move Fletch there sometimes too, but I do think that Javon is the prototypical type of guy that you play on nose as your nose. Now, what I will say is this, guys, about Javon Hargrave, about playing the nose. Some of this is probably the Eagles' disappointment in a guy that I was really high on. I thought we had an absolute steal in the 6th round with Marlon Tuipulotu. We did not. He has not proven to be a steal of any sort. I was really high on Marlon Tuipulotu. I was a little skeptical. I did caution people to be careful because that man has played in the pack. When you play in the pack, the line in the trenches ain't exactly, what you think. But he was a prototypical nose who was proving to be a little undersized. Well, not even undersized. That's the wrong way of saying it. He's just not strong enough. He hasn't proved to be strong enough yet, and he's proven to be a much longer-term developmental guy than I think they were expecting. And I think it's hurting the roster a little bit. So the next question I'll say here, and the next person I'll put in to the defensive line, so my second guy, who's going to also, I think, contribute at the nose, is Hassan Ridgeway. I think Hassan Ridgeway is the next guy that makes sense playing the nose, guys. Okay? Now, could there be instances in special circumstances to where they will rotate in, a Fletcher Cox, where they might rotate in even a Milton Williams, where they just want to beat a guy off the line of scrimmage? Sure, I could see that happening. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I could see that happening, absolutely. But Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway are the guys I see as prototypical noses, okay? So in saying that, let's go to the 3 technique, okay? So my 3 technique. When I look at 3 technique, who are the guys that would traditionally play the 3 technique, okay? Number 1, not a shot, guys. You guys know this one. He's been playing it for a while. It's Fletcher Cox, all right? Fletcher Cox is going to be your first one. So when I look at Fletcher Cox, I see the guy that's, I want to see him play as a 5 technique. I want to see him play, as a 3. I want to see him line up on the nose. I want to see Fletcher Cox be a little bit of a Where's Waldo. I don't want teams to be able to easily key in on Fletcher Cox. You move this guy around, you get him single, one-on-one matchups. I think he can get you double-digit sacks if you treat him the right way. I do. But you got to keep this guy where he's not winded and it doesn't look like he's out there taking plays off, guys. So who would be the next guy behind that, okay? I think your next 3 technique, and there's a lot of ways you can carry these guys. Guys, you don't have to go 4 defensive tackles at all because of depth. But I think the next guy is T.Y. McGill, okay? T.Y. McGill, once again, we're back to NC State, guys. He was an NC State product. He's a veteran guy. He's been around the league for a long time. They might try to see, they could cut him technically and try to get him back on the practice squad like they did last year, then protect him on the practice squad because you have the same rules we had last year with the practice squad. So 16 players. I think you can call 2 guys up to the active roster each game. You can protect the veteran, all that kind of stuff. 3 technique, T.Y. McGill. Right now, that's where I got it, guys. So I got it. Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway, Fletcher Cox, T.Y. McGill, okay? Here's what I'll say. A guy like Raekwon Williams. Where would Raekwon fit? Raekwon could play the 3. Raekwon could play the nose. He could play either, okay? I don't think he's on the roster right now unless the Eagles just feel like they want to keep him and clear through someone like T.Y. McGill. I'm going to predict T.Y. McGill personally, but there are more than one ways to skin the cat here, guys. There's no doubt about it. The other things I'll say about the 3 technique is that Milton Williams can bounce inside as a 3 technique to give you a pass rush, right? Brandon Graham can bounce inside to give you a pass rush, okay? It's 5 techniques. All right, let's talk about a 5 technique, what that is, where it is on an under front. In an under front, it's going to be towards the strong side. It's just because of gap, the way the gaps work out, guys, right? Because essentially you're going to have a 0 shade, a 1, or a 2-eye. So That guy's going to have more than likely the A gap, maybe the B gap. If he's in a 2-eye, he could potentially be a B gapper, but normally that's A gap. He's going to control the A gap. You're going to have a linebacker that's probably going to fill down to play the B gap. And then you're going to need a body in the C gap. So generally speaking, because you're in an under front, your 5 technique is generally speaking going to be that's where he's going to line up, guys, basically. Now, you could run 5 techniques on both sides. There's no rule against having 5 techniques on the weak and the strong side. Could technically do it on both sides, guys, and they probably will from time to time. But 5 technique, traditionally speaking, that's where it's going to be. Who are the 5 techniques? So generally speaking, I view it as more of the left defensive end, if you will. Left defensive end just basically meaning hands in the dirt. It's normally towards the strong side of the offense, but mind you, the offense can change which side is the strong side. It can go from the defensive left to the defensive right, or put another way, the offensive left. It can go from the offensive right to the offensive left. The offense really controls that particular aspect of it. But my 5 techniques in standard traditional ways, and all these guys can play it, guys. But I'm going to say that's going to be BG. BG be your starter. And then Ryan Kerrigan would be behind him. And then behind Ryan Kerrigan, I think will be Milton Williams, guys, okay? So 5 techs, left defensive end, BG, Ryan Kerrigan, Milton Williams. Ryan Kerrigan, I think, is a flex guy. I'm going to get to that in a second. Just stick with me, guys, all right? All right, now let's get over to what I'm going to call the 7 technique, the Joker kind of stand-up pass rusher. When I look at someone that could potentially play a 7 technique, they can be hands in the dirt, by the way, guys. There's no rule against being hands in the dirt at 7. But the guy that comes over there basically on the weak side of the offense now. So we're talking about opposite end here, the other defensive end. If they're in a Joker, generally speaking, I think of those guys as people who are really good at bending the edge, and they can go speed to power with incredible intensity and incredible effectiveness, okay? It's not hard to see who those 2 people are right from the jump, guys. You guys know it. I don't care who you put as the starter and who you put as the reserve. I think they're going to play pretty much equal snaps. I think the starter will only be in name only. They're going to play pretty much equal snaps, guys. Derek Barnett, okay? Josh Sweat. Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. And I also think you will see Ryan Kerrigan at times, because he can play definitely stand up. You'll see Kerrigan go over there too. Kerrigan can play with his hands in the dirt. He can play as a Joker. By the way, he can play as a rush linebacker. So Kerrigan's not even done yet. When we factor in linebackers, we've got to factor in multiple potential possibilities here, guys. Appreciate you, AB3. Love the name, Aviation. If you said ABH, man, I'd have some questions for you, man. Defensive line. Let's take a look at what we got here, guys. I got Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway, Fletcher Cox, T.Y. McGill, Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, Milton Williams, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. I have 9. I do think there is potential to add a 10th. But for the time being, I'm going to save it at 9, and we can come back and visit it at the end, okay? I'm going to say 9 just because I thought Teron Jackson had a really, really good preseason game 1. I don't think his game was quite as good last week. But to be fair, NFL Game Pass is like all kinds of crazy right now, so I can't judge and see things as well as I have in the past right now. So I have to kind of wait until they fix a lot of the glitches with that one. So a lot of this is going off of just what I can see in game, which is not helpful, guys. I'd like to see coaches film and have a chance to watch the game 2 or 3 times without it glitching 10 seconds in between each freaking play. Linebacker. Let's talk linebacker, guys. I see 3 guys I think have definitely played their way onto the roster, and I think they're clearly on the roster right from the jump, guys. All right. I don't think it's really hard to kind of put together the guys are going to be on the roster and the guys are going to be off the roster at the top end of it. You know, we get to the depth positions, maybe so a little bit more. But Eric Wilson, okay? Eric Wilson. I got Alex Singleton. All right. And then the third guy that I think is on the roster, although I don't have him necessarily as a starter, is TJ Edwards. I think TJ Edwards has really proven that he can play football, guys. I'm going to put a 4th guy as Jannard Avery, guys. My 4th guy is going to be Jannard Avery, okay? Then I want to talk, because then I think things get a little complex here, guys. I'm going to go ahead and say, although he had a good camp and then he got injured, and there is reason to suspect maybe they won't keep him, I'm going to say because he was a compensatory 3rd-round pick and because he did look so good early on in camp, I'm going to say Davion Taylor comes back and is on the roster, right? So I got Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor. I'm up to 5. The real question now becomes, do I keep 6? How do you determine if you keep 6? This is the tough part, guys. This is the part I struggle with. Linebackers play a lot of special teams. And even in the special teams report I'm looking at defensively, guys, when I look at the Eagles-Patriots snap count analysis from Bleeding Gray Nation has one up, guys, if you want to look at that. If you look at the guys who played, Sean Bradley played 12 snaps, or 60% of defensive snaps on special teams, guys. Smith, I think it's Roquan Smith, I think is that who that is? Or Rashad. No, it's Rashad Smith. He played 11 snaps for 55%. I don't think he's on the roster, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. TJ Edwards played 10 snaps, 50%. Patrick Johnson, the young rookie, played 13 snaps, 65%. And, dude, I think he played on like 3 different special team units. Sean Bradley, I don't think is necessarily off this roster yet, guys. But for the purposes of tonight's conversation, guys, I have to go with the young kid, Patrick Johnson, right now over Sean Bradley. And I had Sean Bradley last week on Patrick Johnson to the practice squad. I think you can make a case for either one, guys, and I probably wouldn't push back too hard against you on it just because I think they're pretty close. I don't think there's that much a difference there. I think Patrick Johnson has the higher ceiling. I think Sean Bradley's a little bit more of the known commodity. I think Sean Bradley is known to be a really good special teams leader guy, and that might be what keeps Sean Bradley on the roster. But they clearly want to keep Patrick, guys. You play 65% of special team snaps, guys. I think they want you on the roster, personally. The problem is that, 60% Sean Bradley played too. I think it's so hard, guys. And Davion Taylor is going to have that role when he gets back too. He's going to play a lot of special teams, guys. I'm going to go 6 linebackers just because I think that they're going to play such a large role in special teams, guys. I really do. Stevens, guys, I didn't put Stevens on the roster because he's just been injured. He's missed entirely too much time. I think Stevens is more of a practice squad guy. I can't see how you could put him on at this point, guys. He missed entirely too much time, in my opinion, to make. Let's talk safety, guys. Safety concerns the crap out of me. Because has anyone heard the extent of Kayvon Wallace's injury? I think he redid the groin again. Re-injured his groin. Groins are tricky, bro. I mean, if you injure your groin, it can be just lingering throughout the season, man. It's really hard to get that right once you aggravate it, once you hurt it, man. That's a tough one, guys. That's a really tough one. I'm a little concerned about Kayvon Wallace at this point and like how healthy he's going to be throughout the duration of the season. Because if you have to keep going out there and you're going to keep re-aggravating it, guys. But luckily, there are like 3 weeks left. We got all next week, got 2 weeks after next week. So he's got time to heal. So, I mean, that's one way of looking at it, guys, right? But there are a few guys we can say for a fact we know are going to probably be on the roster. We can look at just the obvious guys we know will be here, like Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris is going to be here, guys. That's a give me. Everyone knows that. I know some of you guys have speculated that potentially the Eagles could potentially move on from this player, and I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think he's on the team, guys, to be quite honest. But what I will say kind of bothers me, or it makes me a little weary of elevating him to the rosters. I'm afraid that they could potentially IR this guy or start him off on the PUP list for the season, and it's Rodney McLeod, man. Rodney McLeod, I'm going to put him initially on the roster, but I'm also going to acknowledge that he could be a PUP or an IR guy to start the season, to be quite honest. Kayvon Wallace, I think he's on the roster. The other guy I'm going to solidly put on the roster right now, it's Marcus Epps, guys. This 2 sets of coaches now have seemed to really like this kid a lot, Marcus Epps. So I got those 4 on. I think the real question now becomes, I kept 9 defensive linemen, but I kept 6 linebackers. Do I go a 5th safety? I think that's the real question at this point. And if you go a 5th safety, who are you keeping? Because I can tell you right now, it's not Blake Countess. Blake Countess is not who I'm keeping. You could go Andrew Adams. You could go Grayland Arnold. Okay. I'm going to say, boy, this is a tough one, guys. I'm going to say that it gets pretty complicated between Elijah Riley and Andrew Adams. Give me 1 second. I just want to look at special team report. Is one of these guys, because I know Andrew Adams did play special teams when he was with Tampa Bay and with the Giants and stuff. Has he been playing here in Philadelphia, though? Have they been using him? See, Elijah Riley played on 8. He played 8 downs, 40% of the snaps on special teams. Let's take a look here. Andrew Adams played 8 snaps. Oh, thank you. 40%. Right down the middle. That made things so much easier, guys. Boy, they did not want to make this easy. They did not want to make this easy at all. Boy, flip a coin. Flip a coin, guys, if you're going 5 safeties. I think you can make an argument for either player, guys. I really do. Okay. What I'm going to say is I'm going to go with, boy, this is tough. I'm going to go Elijah Riley. Could be wrong. This easily could be Adams if they keep 5. But I'm going to say they go 5 safeties. Special teams contribution, I think, gets the other guy on the roster. And I got it as Harris, McLeod, Wallace, Epps, Riley. I would watch out for McLeod to potentially be pupped or IR to begin the season. Because then that changes it. You're only probably carrying 4. And then, that could open up another position, guys. So I would definitely watch. Closely for that, guys, because you don't know with these things, man. They can get a little tricky, guys, when it comes to the back end of the roster stuff. Let's talk corners. So if we look at the roster, guys, we went from 15 to 20. I got 5 spaces left for corners. All right. Who are your corners? Well, we know Slay, right? And that one's pretty obvious. We know Nelson. So we got Steven Nelson, Darius Slay, right? Avonte Maddox. I think Avonte Maddox is on this team. It's your nickel cornerback, right? And then we know the 4th guy. He's going to be your, next. I'm going to call it the next up outside corner. Outside corner is going to be McPherson. Obvious one because we spent a 4th round pick on him. So I got Slay, Nelson, Avonte Maddox, McPherson. I think McPherson gives you flexibility, although he's inexperienced as crap. He could play inside, outside. Avonte Maddox can play inside, outside. We much prefer him inside. I think we all agree with that, guys. Boy, now the question becomes, guys, what do they do outside? I'm going to say that Michael Jacquet, my guy, he's a guy I called out last year. I thought had some potential. I still think he has potential. I still think Michael Jacquet is a work in progress, guys. I think that's a practice squad guy, Michael Jacquet is. He's got that prototypical size. I think he's a guy you try to protect if you can on that practice squad, right? Because we could be in a situation where we might need to call up another outside corner. I also think, guys, we have to talk about the fact that we started this video by talking about all the people to contribute to the 53-man roster. We could claim a veteran guy to come in here and, move McPherson down to the 5th guy and then have another guy there, okay? I think it's completely possible, right? The other guy is Craig James, great special teams player, man. He's okay in coverage. He's not great. He's okay. This gets tough, man. I would say it's between Craig James personally and Josiah Scott. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I'm going to say I heard more and I saw more from Josiah Scott, man. And yes, I know that I'm disclaiming this as the only knowledge I have presented to me, but I've just heard far more about Josiah Scott in camp than I've heard about Craig James. And because I can't see footage of what they're doing per se, I can only go with, what I have in front of me, right? Which is, what I'm hearing reported. And I just think Josiah Scott, he only played 2 special team snaps, which is only 10% of snaps, which concerns the crap out of me because I do know for a fact, that my guy, I know that Craig James can play special teams and can be a very, very high special teams player. But Craig James has been injured recently, and he hasn't played. So I'm going Slay, Nelson, Avonte Maddox, McPherson, Josiah Scott to round out my defensive ball club. Then we just have the specialists. You guys know who those are, man. You got Jake Elliott. You got Aaron Sipos, and then Rick Lovato. So your specialist, your kicker, Jake Elliott, your punter, Aaron Sipos, your long snapper, Rick Lovato. So, yeah, this is what I got, guys. You all ready for this? Defense. Javon Hargrave, Hassan Ridgeway, Fletcher Cox, T.Y. McGill, Brandon Graham, Ryan Kerrigan, Milton Williams, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. Okay. Linebacker. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor, Patrick Johnson, safety, Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, Kayvon Wallace, Marcus Epps, Elijah Riley, cornerback, Slay, Nelson, Maddox, McPherson, Josiah Scott. That's my defense. Let me go over the total 53. Y'all ready? From start to bottom. Quarterbacks, 2. Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco. Offensive line, 10. Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbig, Landon Dickerson, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll. Tight end, 3. Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Tyree Jackson, initially on the 53. Next day gets, put onto the IR. And then a week later, they're going to call back Richard Rodgers and bring him back to the active roster. That's my prediction. Running backs, I put 4. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. Wide receivers, I went 6. Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward Jr., Travis Fulgham, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Defensive line, we went 9. Hargrave, Ridgeway, Cox, McGill, Graham, Kerrigan, Williams, Barnett, Sweat. Linebacker, we went 6. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor, Patrick Johnson. Safety, I went 5. Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, Kayvon Wallace, Marcus Epps, Elijah Riley. Cornerbacks, I went 5. Slay, Nelson, Maddox, McPherson, Josiah Scott, and then our specialists are Jake Elliott, Aaron Sipos, and then Rick Lovato. That's a 53-man roster that I'm predicting for the second go-around, guys. Sipos. I think I am saying it wrong, Richie. Thank you, man. Let's talk practice squad, and then let's let you guys talk. All right? Practice squad, and then you guys can talk. I will go ahead and invite you guys in. So while I am talking practice squad, you guys are more than welcome to come in. And at that point, guys, we'll do what we can do, guys. We'll talk. You guys can tell me your 53. You can critique what I put on there. I'm okay, guys, because look, I'm not married to this list. I promise you, I'll probably change it again next week. So, especially, I'm really good. I think give me September 1st, guys. I'll give you a 53. I'll be dead on. If you guys don't catch on, August 31st is the deadline. I'm joking. All right. Let's talk practice squad. 16 players. 16-player practice squad, guys. Number 1, we need a quarterback. That quarterback could come from another team, but I think this player has played bad enough to become your practice squad quarterback, guys. And I know that that's not where a lot of people expected him. I was not a friend of this guy. I mean, I ripped him apart when they signed him. Some of you guys knew behind the scene. You guys knew that I was not a fan of Nick Mullins, but I'm going to say Nick Mullins is number 1 on the practice squad. If you can get him there. If not, they're going to sign somebody else. I'm just going to go down by position group. And we talked about offensive line. Boy, you guys know this. You send me condolences. Just come on and just say my condolences, Steve. I'm so sorry that Owasika got claimed. If Owasika gets claimed, you guys know the Gate City is going to be day drinking, man. I'm going to be doing a little day drinking if my guy Owasika gets claimed. But I'm going to say Owasika makes his way onto the practice squad as a guard tackle kind of candidate. Here's the problem I had with the offensive line. I had Luke Juriga on this one too. But Luke Juriga is now injured, and I don't know how that's going to work. You're not going to practice squad an injured player. I'm going to say maybe you can get a guy like a guard tackle, LaRaven Clark, but here's the problem. I'm going to say initially LaRaven Clark is on here. The problem is LaRaven Clark's got experience in the NFL. The NFL is so tackle needy. Somebody will probably put him on their active roster, to be honest. But for the time being, I'm going to say LaRaven Clark. Report down to the practice squad. I would love to put a guard on here. Just a true guard. I mean, Owasika can be a true guard. Raven Clark can be a true tackle, but I don't really see a lot of depth, guys, at guard that we can put here. Oh, Sua Apeta. Sua Apeta, if I don't have – and Apeta might make the active roster, guys. Apeta could be the guy that knocks Matt Pryor off this roster, to be honest. But I want to put Apeta here. So I got Mullins, Owasika, LaRaven Clark, Sua Apeta. So far, I got 4 guys. I would not be shocked, guys, if we also see them – carry more than this. Tucker got injured and was waived. I don't know if they'll bring Tucker back, guys. Casey Tucker, I have my doubts that he's going to come back. I thought, just kind of talking about guys, Rosh Pierschbacher potentially is a center guard. He could come back. I could see that potentially. I'm not going to put him there for the time being, but I could see that happening because he's, Alabama product, been around the league for a while. I mean, it makes sense. I'm going to say Brett Toth probably comes back there. I think Brett Toth could be back. And you know what, guys? Can I make a change already, guys? I just don't think LaRaven Clark is going to make it. I already kind of talked myself out of this, man. I'm going to take LaRaven Clark off of this because there's just no way LaRaven Clark's going to make it. Somebody's going to clearly claim LaRaven Clark. So I'm going to say Pierschbacher is going to be that guy, right? So we're going to have a guard center. So I got quarterback Nick Mullins, guard tackle Coyote Owasika, center guard Pierschbacher, guard Tuapeta, tackle Brett Toth. 4 O-linemen on here so far. We're up to 5 out of the 16 spots. Let's keep going. I'm going to say a running back. Jason Huntley, if he's not at it. Jason Huntley got claimed by the Eagles last year. There's a chance Jason Huntley gets claimed if we waive him again. That is very much possible, guys. Holyfield's kid's been on the practice squad a couple of years, guys. They might move on from Holyfield's kid. And the other thing is, guys, is that I can't predict who they're – clearly they're going to sign other people from other people's teams. Our third string wasn't very good, and our fourth string was completely atrocious. Our fourth, the sub-in third guys. They were really bad guys. All right, let's go to tight end. Jack Stahl. Jack Stahl is going to be here if he clears waivers. There's no doubt in my mind there, guys. Mullins, Owasika, Pierschbacher, Suapeta, Brett Toth, Jason Huntley, Jack Stahl so far. We got room for a receiver. This is where it gets interesting because got to go with your preference here. Can you get not JJ, we put on the active roster. Can you get Hightower to the practice squad? I think it's a 50-50 chance here. I do think someone's going to claim him. I think someone is going to need receiver play. If he's your 5th or 6th receiver on a team and you feel good about your top 2 or 3, I think you can take a chance on a Hightower to be your kick returner in a deep threat. I do. I think it could happen. I honestly do. I honestly think that could be a real possibility, guys. So I'm going to say that Hightower probably gets claimed. So then that leaves me with Jamon Osborne, who I don't think has had that impressive of a camp so far. I would be, maybe it's just my own, maybe I'm not looking at this clearly, but I would be shocked if Osborne makes it to the roster, guys. I mean, I don't think they're going to keep him. I think the big guy, coming out of, the local talent here, Andre Patton. I think Andre Patton's the guy you could probably get through to the practice squad. And I think Patton's had a couple, little moments in camp where you're like, hey, man, 6'2", Rutgers guy, played out there in South Jersey. I mean, hey, man, like Andre Patton, he's a guy you could root for, right? So I got Mullins, Owasika, Pierschbacher, Opeta, Toth, Huntley, Stahl, Patton. They may go more than one wide receiver, guys. Like I said, guys, they will claim other people from other teams. And you don't have to go 8 offensive guys and 8 defensive guys. I'm just being special about it, guys, and I'm putting guys on how I see. Let's go defensive line, guys, and let's talk. Defensive end. Teron Jackson. I think Teron Jackson goes on your practice squad. I think he's got a chance to make the active roster. They might keep him, but for right now, guys, I'm gonna put him on the practice squad. I don't know if there's you know what? I'm gonna go a second defensive end. Jaquan Bailey. I thought Jaquan Bailey has a lot of work to do, but I thought he at least fought his butt off in that Patriots game. He's one of the few guys I thought wasn't playing well, but I saw effort at least. Jaquan Bailey, you know what, my guy? I'm going to put you on the practice squad as a thank you for being one of the few guys I saw fight out of on Thursday. So there we go. I think your defensive tackle, guys, I'm going to go Raekwon Williams, man. I think you're going to try to hold on to Raekwon Williams if you can. I think Raekwon Williams is one of those guys you could potentially call up in season. I like Raekwon Williams. I'm going to go another defensive guy. I'm going to go with Marlon, my bad, guys. Tui Pelotu. Look, I don't think there's a guarantee to keep Tui Pelotu. As high as I was on Tui Pelotu coming into the offseason, he hasn't played well, guys. But you know what? I think they still would like to get him stronger. I think they still see him as a guy who could contribute as a nose down the line. That's 4 defensive guys. We're up to 12 guys as a 16. You can keep veterans on this, guys. Remember, you can keep a veteran. Linebacker, Sean Bradley. I think Sean Bradley's worth keeping around, guys. I would keep Sean Bradley around. All right, so I'm going to say Sean Bradley. I don't think any of these other linebackers are worth keeping. I mean, you could keep, well, maybe you can't keep Osman because Osman's really been with the Eagles for a long time. He might have exhausted any eligibility he had. I'm going to say Osman, probably not on it because I think he's exhausted his eligibility, guys. So I'm going to say, I guess, yeah, I don't really like the rest of the linebackers, guys. I'm going to just say Sean Bradley only. So I got Ron Jackson, Jaquan Bailey, Raekwon Williams, Marlon Tuipulotu, and Sean Bradley so far on this roster. I will say the other linebacker I could see is kind of a linebacker safety kind of role, guys, is Jacoby Stevens. I do think that this team really likes Jacoby Stevens. I think they'd like to get Jacoby Stevens, from the practice squad to the active roster late into the season. I think injuries kind of derailed his chances. I think he, would have had a legitimate shot at potentially making it, but he's just been a little too injured, I think, to keep on the roster right now. Also, keep in mind, guys, you can phantom injure people. I know you're not legally supposed to do that by the rule book, but you know what? It happens all the time, guys. So I wouldn't look past some of these guys getting phantom injuries and kept around somehow. I can tell you a guy that I think I thought was a really good chance to be a phantom injury. I thought LaRaven Clark, it felt like that for a minute, like, this dude might be one of these so-called phantom injuries, guys. We're up to 7. We got to keep corner. I'm going to say cornerback. I'm going to say Michael Jacquet. I'm going to say to keep Michael Jacquet. So let me see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So maybe a safety at this point would be worth keeping if we can find a guy that's really worth keeping. That's your issue with some of this stuff. Boy, I get stuff. I think Andrew Adams will get probably claimed, but if Andrew Adams isn't claimed, they can use the designation of one of the players you protect as a veteran on your practice squad. I'm going to say Andrew Adams, right? You can kind of carry him that way and call him up for game days if you need him, especially if you got Rodney McLeod down. I can see that happening, right? So I got full roster, full compensation, full ifs, ands, and buts, and all the other crazy stuff, guys, going on here. Don't forget, guys, you can come in, man. Elijah Riley, I put on the actual active roster. I shine, but I'll tell you that in a second, guys. All right, quarterbacks, 2. Jalen Hurts, Joe Flacco. Offensive linemen, I got 10. Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbig, Landon Dickerson, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll. We're all apprehensive about Matt Pryor, guys. None of us really want him here, but I'm just judging the tea leaves as they fall, guys. Tight end, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Tyree Jackson, temporarily next day sent to the injured reserve list. A week later, Richard Rodgers gets added back to the roster. Running backs, 4. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. Wide receivers, 6. So Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward Jr., Travis Fulgham, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Defensive line, 9. Hargrave, Ridgeway, Cox, McGill, Graham, Kerrigan, Williams, Derek Barnett, and Josh Sweat. Linebacker, 6. Eric Wilson, Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Jannard Avery, Davion Taylor, Patrick Johnson. Safeties, 5. This is mostly due to injury, guys. Anthony Harris, Rodney McLeod, Kayvon Wallace, Marcus Epps, Elijah Riley. Corners, 5. Darius Slay, Steven Nelson, Levante Maddox, Zach McPherson, Josiah Scott, and then your 3 core special teams player, which is going to be Jake Elliott, Aaron Sapos, and then you have Rick Lovato. So that's your 53. Practice squad, 16-player practice squad, as follows. Nick Mullins, Owasika, Pierschbacher, Opeda, Toth, Jason Huntley, Jack Stahl, Andre Patton. That's your offensive guys. Defensive guys, Teron Jackson, Jaquan Bailey, sorry guys, Raekwon Williams, Marlon Tuipulotu, Sean Bradley, Jacoby Stevens, Michael Jacquet, Andrew Adams. Paul, there are limitations to it, but they increased it last year because of COVID, and I'm pretty sure those increases stay in place this year as well. I don't know the exact number anymore, Paul. I'd have to look it up, man. I really don't know it off the top of my head, guys. All right, guys, if you guys want to come in and tell me where you might have a slight disagreement with me, it's fine, guys. Like I said, guys, I am not tied to this list. It will probably change. It's just the way I feel currently in the moment. If you guys want to talk about practice squad, if you guys want to talk about your 53, you can give me your 53 real quick. You can give me your 53 real quick, guys. I'll keep it open for a couple of minutes if you guys want to come in. If not, then, then we can sign off and kind of do the day, guys. We can call it a day. Everybody can watch this, and then you guys can leave the comments if you guys want to do it now. Graylin Arnold not making the team. Yeah, man, I left him off, man. I ran into a problem in terms of numbers. If you wanted to sub Andrew Adams for Graylin Arnold, I could understand that, but I'm just thinking about veterans and guys with playing experience and like how you would keep a guy onto the roster, man. I could also, if you're going to keep him over Jacoby Stevens, I could see that. But Jacoby Stevens, you did spend a draft pick on. Graylin Arnold, what's up, Jack Time Harder? Yeah, JJ, I got on the roster, man. I just think he's been a red zone threat in camp. I think they envision a role for him. He's been playing a little bit of special teams. I think he's doing the small things to keep yourself on the back end of the roster. Yes, guys, he's clearly going to be considered a bust. He's not going to be a starter, and you spend a second-round pick on him. Third year in the league, he's still making it on the roster, guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. Herbeck's not going to be out, guys. Herbeck's your first up off the bench for your guards. He's one of your primary backups. In order to put Tyree Jackson on the PUP or IR, guys, you have to first put him on the active roster. And then the next day you can designate him. Yeah, man. Look at this guy. Holy guys, we got a VIP is joining us.
What is going on? What is up, man? I told you I had a wedding to go to today. You know what I mean? That's why we got to do PvP tomorrow. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you good, man.
What's going on with you guys?
Hanging in there, bro. Hanging in there, man. What's up? Who got married, man?
My wife's daughter, so my daughter-in-law.
Okay. Hey, congratulations.
Young, but you know what I mean? As long as it's getting her out of the house, you know what I mean?
Hey, congratulations, my guy.
So we down for Battle Birds though tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What time are you thinking?
Whenever you're ready to go, my guy. Just, obviously because it's Sunday night, not like 10 o'clock. But
yeah, of course.
We can do it in the afternoon or in the evening. Either one works for me, man.
Sounds good. The chat.
What you got for your 53, Mike?
Huh?
What we got? Give the people your 53, bro.
Well, I gotta say this though. I love the thumbnail. I love the thumbnail about JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So I'm kind of sad I missed the conversation. I wanted to see how deep you guys went. If the chat could persuade you to get him off. I'm guessing. I'm guessing you left JJ.
You're breaking up a little bit, my guy.
Did you leave?
I did. You want me to tell you the 50? You want me to tell you my 53?
Go ahead.
All right, 53. 2 quarterbacks, Hurts and Flacco. 10 offensive linemen, Jordan Mailata, Isaac Seumalo, Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Nate Herbeck, Landon Dickerson, Matt Pryor, Jack Driscoll. Tight ends, 3, Ertz, Goddard, Jackson, with this caveat. Jackson on the initial 53. Next day gets put on the PUP or the injured reserve list. And then Richard Rodgers is called back a week later and signed to the active roster. 4 running backs, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. 6 wide receivers. You ready for it? Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins, Greg Ward Jr., Travis Fulgham, and last but not least, making my thumbnail a true story, JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
And so
defense, 9 D linemen, man. I went Hargrave, Ridgeway, Cox, McGill, Graham, Kerrigan, Milton Williams, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat. All right, linebackers, I went 6, Wilson, Singleton, Edwards, Avery, Davion Taylor, Patrick Johnson. Safety, I went 5 because we don't know what's going on with McLeod. So I went Harris, McLeod, Wallace, Epps, and Elijah Riley. Corners, I went 5, Slade, Nelson, Maddox, McPherson, Josiah Scott. And then, of course, your 3 specialists.
Wow. That's really hard to disagree with. It's pretty on spot. I agree with the safety position because it's a lot of unknown other than Anthony Harris right now until Ronnie McLeod shows he can do it. Look, I don't know. Early in the offseason, I thought that JJ Arcega-Whiteside was really going to get off. I don't know if he's necessarily really doing good, but we heard in this whole joint practice he was making plays. It's just unfortunate we can't get no video, right? We get video of other
Exactly.
people.
Yeah.
We
I
couldn't
keep
get no
telling
video.
people I'm hearing it, but there's no video evidence.
I know, right? So, because of John Hightower's mishaps and stuff, didn't he? What is his injury again?
I don't know what he injured, but he missed a significant amount of camp, and he just, he hasn't really been playing. He played a few snaps at kick returner last week. Outside of that, though, man, he hasn't really, he just hasn't really been in the fight. And they said, we're hearing it. I haven't seen it, but we're hearing JJ went off in the red zone. I heard JJ was flat out the best receiver on the team during joint practice with the Patriots.
It's crazy because I hate, because it's him. I really feel like I gotta see it to believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, like,
if you ain't got video, yeah.
Who's number 41, the wide receiver? It's like Andre Patton or something like that.
Andre
right?
Patton, I like him a lot.
Like, I don't think he'll make the team, of course, but it's crazy because in our first preseason game against the Steelers, you got Andre Patton and Whiteside in the game together, and still Hurts is targeting Patton. And like, I know it's like, as a receiver, in preseason where you're on and off, but it's like, how do you come out your first preseason game as a third-year man playing with backups playing with the fourth and third string, and letting Andre Patton get targets? All you come away with one special team tackle. You know what I mean? And then I see that, and then I hear, oh, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is doing good. Well, where were your phones there? You caught Jalen Rager's touchdown.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, where were they? How do we have video footage of every single person on Twitter but JJ? And yet they're telling us that he was the best player. I don't understand it either.
and that's why it's like, look, he's the fringe guy.
Mike, they are coming at you in the chat, bro. They were talking about you're interviewing for Judge Judy.
There you go. I ain't mad the king, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's
Cleaned
up,
up
Bull
pretty nice. Hey, but yeah, shout out to all you guys. I just wanted to stop by on because I knew I was wearing, you know what I mean? I knew I was cleaned up. I put the little Philly Mikes on Twitter. For those who follow me on Twitter, you get to see my long hair, don't care kid. And then my 6-year-old, they were all dressed snazzy and all that. But I'm going to let you guys go before my wife
hang on,
kills
Mike, before you go, hang on. Aishan say, hey, yo, Mike, were you interviewing to be the new Men in Black movie part 4?
Let's go. Hey, I like the Men in Black movie, you know what I mean? Let's go. I'm wearing gray, though, but you know what I mean? Men in gray, we can do a remix to it, you know what I'm saying? But, hey, I love it. But we'll talk about Battlebird. Shout out to everybody in the chat, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, JJ will be here, I guess.
We'll see, man. I don't think anything's guaranteed, but I believe so, too.
With that being said, y'all know what time it is. He's not out, but I'm out. Peace.
No, I'm about to be out, too. Later, man. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. I'm going to go ahead and jump off here, guys. About an hour and a half. We will be back tomorrow. Me and Mike will be back. We're trying to get a hold of Reese. We want Reese back. We want a full Battlebirds podcast tomorrow, guys. Pay attention to Mike, Reese, and I. We'll post, everything to let you guys know when it's going to go. It'll either be tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, early evening, not like late evening. So, you know what I'm saying, guys? Rashad Gibson, what's up, buddy? Hang on, let me read a couple y'all before I jump off, guys. All right. Yo, Gate, what do you think Gannon using Maddox as a safety if injuries persist? Hey, Rashad, you and I are on the same page, bro. I think that would make sense, guys. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. I just see my guy Bergang31 was here. Bergang31, I see your live stream, bro. I'm gonna jump on and watch yours in a minute, bud. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Bergang31 is live. If you guys want more content, head over to Bergang31, guys. All right, y'all. Peace. Now the awkward part, guys, has to end.